Hey everyone, Jake here for American Trucks, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at the Bilstein B8 5100 series height adjustable front shocks fitting 2019 and newer Silverado and Sierra 1500s, excluding Trail Boss and AT4 models. Upgrading your front shocks is an excellent way to improve the ride and handling characteristics of your truck, but these B8 5100s take things a step further too. They're a super high quality shock absorber that gives you not just an improvement in the overall driving experience, but it can also help function as a leveling kit, which makes them pretty unique out in the market. There's a few things I don't like to mess around with when it comes to my vehicles, and those tend to include tires, brakes, and also suspension modifications. Now, when it comes to getting some kind of lift or level on your truck, yes, we all want that look, but it's got to ride and handle properly as well. And nobody does ride and handling better than Bilstein. Now, I've had Bilsteins on several of my own vehicles, including a set of these B8 5100s, and I have to say that they never fail to impress me. And this one in particular has some really cool features. Now, the biggest of which is that you can adjust the physical height of where the spring perch sits, effectively giving you either a factory ride height or up to a 2.5-inch level. Now, the grooves on the body of the shock allow for adjustment with the snap ring, so you can have these set at a totally stock level by setting them at the bottom, or crank it up and get that 2.5-inch level by setting them at the very top groove. It's a super easy way to level out your truck. You don't need to buy anything additional, no blocks, no spacers, or anything like that. And if you do want to set it back to stock at some point, you can keep the same uprated shocks. You can just adjust that collar down and have the ride height move as you see fit. Now, running these in their highest setting also means that you can get larger wheels and tires on your truck. In this case, you can get some pretty beefy 32s on there without issue. As you get closer to a 33-inch tire though, you may need to do some trimming or you'll run into clearance issues. So to ensure that you don't run into issues, we recommend sticking with 32s with this setup. Keep in mind too that if you run this at a lower height, you may also encounter some rubbing issues, so size accordingly if you're not going to run them at their full height. Now, having that adjustability is really cool, but you've also got to have really solid damping to match, otherwise the ride is going to be severely compromised. But of course, Bilstein has you covered there. The B8 5100 features digressive valving technology, which basically means that the shocks are able to almost instantly react to impacts and varying road surfaces, making for a nice smooth ride. Inside are self-adjusting deflective disc valves, which allows for more variability in rebound, compression, and travel, all things that are very important in a shock absorber. And that again is just going to add up to more control for you out on the street or the trail. Now, despite these being non-adjustable monotube shocks without remote reservoirs, the damping here is excellent and you can definitely feel the difference in body control versus stock. This is not going to ruin the ride quality by any means. In fact, it's going to stay pretty much the same as stock, just maybe a bit more firm, but also more controlled. It's a shock really that doesn't compromise in any way, and that's the thing I like most about it. However, its construction is nothing to sneeze at because, as is usual with Bilstein's offerings, it's excellent here. You get a 46mm diameter shock body that is zinc plated for durability and good looks. Inside, you've got chromed and hardened piston rods and that self-adjusting disc valve we were discussing a few moments ago. You also get new OEM grade bushings at the bottom mounting points, and you get new hardware too, giving you everything you need to replace your shock. Now, Bilstein does also back up all their products with a lifetime warranty against defects, and I can tell you from experience they're very good about honoring that. Just make sure you have your receipt handy. Pricing will come in at about $200 per shock, and I say $200 per shock because these are sold separately. So make sure you make that quantity 2 when you go to buy them. They're the same for both sides, but you again are going to need 2. Now, that $200 price point does put these in about the middle of the range, but that seems to be about right in my book. Since you aren't getting things like adjustable damping or a remote reservoir, you're saving a bit on cost, but these are still going to provide you excellent damping control and the ability to level out your truck too, so you don't have to buy an additional leveling kit if you're looking to do that while you swap out your shocks. So if you're shopping for shocks and you aren't looking to lift your truck to the sky, you really cannot go wrong with these. Now, I also want to mention that there is a matching rear shock of this series available as well. We have them on our site, and I would highly recommend doing all of them together because it's going to make for a big improvement in how your truck drives, and the front will match the rear, so everything is going to be nice and taut. Installation gets a 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and each shock should take you about 2 hours to complete. Now you are going to need a spring compressor to accomplish this job, as you do need to transfer over your stock spring, hence that 2 out of 3. Now if you've ever dealt with that before, you know a spring compressor can be a little bit finicky, but if you've got the right tools and you take your time, you can certainly get this one done at home. In fact, to show you exactly what's involved, let's hand things over now to one of our AT customers.
You will absolutely need jack stands, and you will absolutely need a jack. Now, this jack is a 3-ton jack. It's probably better if you use a 6-ton jack, but 3-ton is plenty enough for a 1500. It's not crazy heavy. A hammer up here. The strap there, I put that as a must-have because you will need to disassemble, or not disassemble, but you will need to disconnect your upper control arm from your spindle. Have to have a spring compressor. I used a wobble socket, 15 torch bit. The marker. You want the marker so that you can mark the front of the coilover or the strut assembly. Pliers, at minimum, I'd say you need a full tool kit. The only reason I say that is because you will have to have a mixture of long sockets and short sockets. And the differences between those and some of the short sockets that you're going to use are 1/4 inch to 3/8 inch to 1/2 inch, depending on which bolt, nut, stud that you are removing or putting back on. You'll need a 17mm wrench, a 15mm wrench, a torque wrench so that you can torque everything back to spec, a 1/2 inch ratchet, a 1/2 inch ratchet extension. This is a 3/8 ratchet with a long 3/8 extension, a shorter 3/8 extension, a wobble extension for the 3/8. Then you need a 1/4 inch ratchet and a 1/4 inch extension, a size 18mm socket and a size 22mm socket. This is your 18mm, your 17mm, 15mm, 13mm, 10mm, and 8mm. These are your socket sizes that you will absolutely have to have. This is the special lug nut tool that you need to remove the locking lug nut from your truck. What's up everybody, my name is Alex, and today we're going to go through the installation of these Bilstein 5100 series shocks that are ride height adjustable. With each shock you get a hardware kit and a set of instructions, which we will go through as we install these on the truck. But first step is to get the tire off and to start disassembling so we can get that strut out and replace it with this. So let's go. A good tip whenever you're working on stuff like this, when you take lug nuts or any kind of nut off of your truck or car and they're just loose on the ground like that, and okay, because none of this is really coming out, I'm going to go ahead and put the lug nuts back on these studs so that I don't lose them. And that goes for anything else. If I'm taking a bolt off, I just put it right back where it goes. That way I'm not losing any hardware along the way. Another thing I wanted to touch on too, your hub might look a little bit different because this black thing right here that's sticking off of this rotor, that's a wheel spacer. And I have those just to push my tires out a little bit more to give it a little bit more of an aggressive stance. Your truck, if you do not have spacers, obviously won't have this. These can be picked up at AmericanTrucks as well. I got these as an open box item. Highly recommend checking out their open box. I highly recommend looking at their open box products. You can find some great deals there. So anyway, lug nuts are back on the studs. This is a wheel spacer. Don't pay too much attention to that because you won't have that on your truck unless you have already previously installed them. So I have taken this strut out of the truck before, and I do know that you need to loosen up the upper control arm to get a little bit more wiggle room to get this strut out. So we're going to loosen up this nut right here. We're not going to take it all the way off. We just need to loosen it up so that we can drop this spindle down, get a little bit more separation between the upper control arm and the spindle. So let's do that really quick. These nuts will have a fair amount of torque on them, so if you can't get it off, try using a breaker bar. If you don't have that, that's okay. You can use a ratchet with what is known as a cheater bar, which is a long bar right here that you can use to get a little bit more leverage on this bolt. Let's see if we can get it like this. If not, we'll use the breaker bar. It seems to be coming out. And I'm just tightening it for funsies. So like I said, we don't want to loosen this all the way. We just want to loosen it enough so we can get that separation between this upper control arm and the spindle. So let's see how much we have left. Let's go just a little bit more. Be careful, you don't want to go too much, okay? There we go. And if we need to loosen that nut all the way to get a little bit more space, it's not that big of a deal. You just got to be careful with brake lines and these electrical lines right here, and the, well, I guess it's not that big of a deal for your rack and pinion and your tie rods, but you just want to be cognizant of these brake lines and whatnot. You don't want to put any extra pressure on them. So we may end up having to take that off, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Now, what we want to work on is getting, the next step to this disassembly is getting these top nuts loose on the top of this strut. Right here, this is connecting to the top of this tower. So we need to take this nut off, and then there's a third one back there that we're gonna have to go through the engine bay to actually get access to, and I'll show you that right now. So now I'm going to take off the air box on this side to access that third bolt on the driver's side shock tower. So I'm going to remove just this. I don't need to remove the tube, but the third bolt is underneath there. Yours may look a little bit different. This is an aftermarket intake tube that I got from AmericanTrucks. It's just the tube itself and a filter in here, but that can be bought on AmericanTrucks as well. I also have this. Your truck won't have that unless you have this. It's a Pulsar LT programmer, but it doesn't necessarily change anything with the engine, but it allows you to do multiple things to your truck, like activate or deactivate the DFM AFM system on your truck, limiter, speed limiter on there. It also has the ability to turn off your auto start, auto stop. There's a lot of benefits to this thing. Please check it out. I also got this at AmericanTrucks. It plugs right into your factory harness and it just Velcros right on top. So with that being said, I'm going to take that off and I'm going to take this whole stock air box off. Before you go unplugging any electrical wiring like this, you need to take the negative terminal off of your battery so that you don't hurt any electronics. There's a small chance that you will, but that's not a chance I'm willing to take. So let's go ahead and disconnect the negative battery lead, which is over on that side of the engine bay. Your negative terminal lead is right here. This is the positive, obviously. You just need the negative lead taken off. Requires a 10 mil, and you're just gonna undo this bolt right here. Just get it loose enough to where you can wiggle this negative lead off. That's all you need to do. I'm just gonna go down there with it so that it's not grounding out to any metal. There you go. So now that we have the negative terminal lead undone or unhooked, we can go ahead and start working on getting the entire airbox assembly out so we have better access to the bolts on top of the shock tower on the driver's side. So, battery is undone. Let's go ahead and remove this clip. You slide that red clip back, and then you push down on this black tab underneath that red clip, and then you pull out. There you go, you have that undone. This is a Pulsar that Velcros to the top. I'm gonna undo that. This right here slides onto a bracket right here, so you just slide that off and move it to the side. There's also a clip, a gray clip right here that you will need to use a pry tool to get out. So just go ahead and pry that out, move it to the side. And lastly, we're gonna need to take this hose clamp off using an 8 mil. Do that. So now that is loose, we need to move on to the next step to get this out of here. Okay, so the next step to get the air box out is to get this cover off. All you got to do is lift these little tabs up and then pull them out. So again, I'm going to use my pry tool and I'm going to get underneath, pry that up a little bit, get that out a little bit more, and then you go underneath and snap it out. They're not hard to get to. Again, put these in a container so that you do not lose any of them. This is the container I'll be using. Four, get under, pull up, and then it comes right out. Hey, editors editing this video. I hope y'all are doing well. Yeah, I hope I can be goofy in this video and not too serious. I'll be nice. I like being goofy though. Alright. So, if y'all need somebody to do this full time, I would happily do this for you guys. For realsies though, that would be awesome. It's like a dream job, just installing aftermarket stuff on a truck. Oop, that one came out. It's okay if these come out, by the way. Don't do what I just did. It's alright if the top comes out of the actual clip itself. All you gotta do, just push it right back in. Alright, and we have one more over here. Tie that top part up, and then the bottom part comes right out. How these work is when you push them down like that, it puts pressure on these outer points right here and keeps it from coming up. But whenever you lift up on this tiny top part, it releases the pressure and allows it to squeeze together, and then you can pop it out. There are 10 total clips in the top of this right here. Put those in your container, and you just pop it up and slide it on out. All right, now that we have this loose, you need a number 15 Torx bit. I'm gonna take this handle off. Those. It just slides off like that. Put it back where you got it. And if you're not going to put it back like those clips, put it in a container. Here you go. So the reason we did that is to get to this air horn right here. So it has another one of those clips like we just took off. You're going to take this out. And what you want to do, you just want to slide it out from in there. You just want to slide it forward enough to where you have access to this so you can lift it up and out. So now that we have this loose and it is now disconnected from our air box, we are going to loosen the air box and then lift this whole thing out. So there we go, that's that. All right, so next we have a nut right here, if you can see that. It's a nut right here that we got to take off. This is a 10 mil. Don't have to use a drill, you can use a ratchet. Stuff kind of moved out of our way. That bracket is now loose. And then I also have a zip tie for this aftermarket programmer that I'm going to need to cut. Cut away from the actual wiring so you don't slice it open. All right, so now what we need to do is loosen up these band clamps over here so we can get this whole tube pushed over there. So I'm gonna loosen up this band clamp so we can get it off of the throttle body. There we go. Just put that over to the side. Now should be able to. Be wary of this collar that goes right there. It slips down. Just a little metal collar. If you're pulling on this, it has the chance of slipping out like that. So just be careful. Okay, one step that I did forget to mention is this right here. That is one of the steps that I did forget to mention was this right here. You want to loosen this bar and move it out of your way. Getting this out of the way makes it much easier to get the actual airbox out. There you go. And with that out, can then lift up on this guy. And actually, what would actually help a lot too is to disconnect this. So let's go ahead and do that. So that bolt right here and right here, 13 millimeter. This bolt right here is a 15. I apologize if you can hear the train. Wish I didn't live near a train, but nonetheless I do. Okay, there you go, and with that out of the way, you should be able to slide it a little bit out of your way, but you really don't want to hurt these louvers right here. There's louvers on this radiator, so don't pull too aggressively. I just wanted to get it a little bit more out of the way. Wiggle our way out with the airbox. And there you go. That is the airbox removed. So we got the stock airbox out of there, and this is this is the top of the shock tower, the 3 bolts that we need to remove. It might seem like a lot, but trust me, it's worth doing that just so you have an easier time getting to these. Passenger side is way easier. We don't need to remove anything from that side, but this side you definitely want to do it. Let's talk about this actually. So I already have a leveling kit on the front of this truck, and the Bilsteins that I'm going to be putting into my truck are going to be set at factory height because I already have a leveling kit in here. It's a kit that has a spacer that goes on top of your strut and coil assembly. This bolt is just one from my shop that I put in here so that this would hold this back in place. So anyway, with that being said, I'm going to remove this, and then we're going to go ahead and start removing these top bolts. Remember guys, again, put your stuff back where they went. That way you do not lose anything. You can even do that on the bolts that you loosened up over here for that cover, which I'm going to do. Alright guys, so we're going to use a 17 mil long socket. If you use a short socket, it will not be able to get down to there. Use a long socket to get that out. Alright, so this is more along the lines of what you guys will see. You have your 3 studs that hold your strut assembly in place. Now, one very important thing before you remove this, remember the orientation of these bolts. You want to put this back, the top hat of your strut assembly back in here just as it was taken out. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to mark the front of this so I don't forget it. All right, guys, so down here, I'm just gonna put a line right there and draw a little line mark all the way down so I know exactly which side needs to go up front when we reinstall this. I don't know if that's necessary, but I'm just marking all of that so I know. And then I'm going to put a marker right there on the actual boot. Cool. All right, let's go ahead and get these bolts taken off, or let's go ahead and get the nuts on top taken off. All right, so now we are going to take the bolts off of the top of this using a 17 millimeter socket and a drill. You can also just use a ratchet. Make sure you keep track of your hardware. You're going to have a nut and a washer for each stud. Here's the washer. Be careful, you don't want any of that dropping down and losing it forever into your engine bay. Alright, now let's go down and get it out. You should have clips that look like this on both sides. I do not. I believe whenever I installed my leveling kit, this side, the clip broke for some reason. Not sure why, but I just went back with a nylon locking nut to hold it in place. So anyway, have that wrench there to stop it from spinning around on me. Go in from below. There you go. Keep your hardware all together, put that nut back on that stud with the washer so you don't lose them. So because we still have this clip instead of a nut, we should just be able to back it off. That is a 15 on this side. It is a 15 mil. There you go. So now your strut assembly is loose, as you can see. Remember, put everything back together. So as I was kind of expecting, because I have a spacer on here, I'm not able to get this to go down low enough to be able to get this out of here. So it is loose, but we're gonna have to get this off of here. So let's go ahead and get this nut all the way, the rest of the way off, so we can go ahead and push it down. And you want to be careful when doing this. You do not want to stretch out your brake line or any of these wires right here, so just be cognizant of all of that. All right, so this is an 18 mil. Whew. There you go. All right, you don't want to just take it all the way off, because this will separate, and then these lines will get very tight and could potentially break. So what we're gonna do instead is we're gonna put a jack under here, which is gonna hold it in place so we can take this off, and then we're gonna strap this to right here so that we're not putting extra tension on those lines. So another jack, and I'm going to get it positioned on the rotor itself and not on the dust shield, so just be aware of that. All right, you see how that's moving now? I can probably loosen this by hand. Yep. What we're going to do is we're going to let it down, or let it pop up like that. We're going to let this down slowly, and then we're going to get this held up to probably the upper control arm by like a ratchet strap or something. Like right here, we're going to go under and over. So let's do that. All right, so I'm just using this black strap. Hold it in place a little bit so we can let off the tension. As you can see, there's no tension there. And that's holding all of it. So right now I have it around the lug nut, the brake line bracket, and the top of the upper control arm. So now we can get our jack out of the way. And so now we have that play. I need to let a little bit off of this. That's a way to do it. If you are putting tension on these, you can slip them out of their holds. I'll let them fall a little bit. Alright. There you go. Stock strut assembly. Now I'm going to tighten this back up a little bit because I don't want tension on that. Remember, you can take these off. So that's a good tip. Okay, let's work on the passenger side. As you can see, these bolts right there are the front two, and then you have one more in the back, just like on the driver's side. The front two right here are actually easily accessible from down here, so I'm going to use a ratchet to get onto them, and then we're going to go up top to get the last third one. Okay. All right, so I'm going to push this plastic up and out of the way. Push that plastic up and out of the way. Slide this on there and start working it off. These are a little bit more tedious than the other side. but also easier to get to. Also use, let's do that instead. So like I just showed, you can use a socket, but if you do have a set of ratcheting wrenches, they are a much better alternative, give you a little bit more range of motion. Remember, if you're taking them off from down here, might not be able to see it, but there is a washer on top of here, so don't lose that washer, okay? And we got this side. Go. Those ratcheting wrenches you can pick up from Harbor Freight, or you can order them off of Amazon. They are not expensive. Here's the nut, and don't forget about the washer. There you go. Wanted to show you from the passenger side, you can come right here, get to this bolt right there. That is the third bolt that we need to get. I'm going to get it from below in the wheel well, but I wanted to show you where it was. All right, guys, so we're going for that bolt right there, okay? It's going to be kind of hard to show you guys because I can't really get a camera in there, but that's the one we're going for with the extension and the wobble extension. And I lost the nut, but I'm pretty sure I heard it come out on the bottom below the truck, so that's fine. So there's the washer. Let's go get the nut. Do not forget to mark where the front is on your strut assembly, all the way down to the actual coil itself, and even onto the boot. It helps make sure everything is centered and put right back in the way you took it out. That way the only difference is the strut, nothing else is different with the actual shock itself. So let's move on to getting these bottom nuts off. Like on the other side, got a nut on the bottom of here and a bolt and a nut on this side. So get our tools. All right, gonna do this one first on the front. It is a 15 mil nut on the back. I'm using an impact, but again, you can use a ratchet. No, I believe I just broke that alligator clip. Is that what that's called? Yeah, I just broke it. Cool. Be careful when removing this clip. Don't be like me. This is real life. All right, so I have that clip in place. There we go. All right. So there's the top. I did break this clip. I did not mean to, but a way to get around not breaking your clip is when it's on there, stick a vice grip on both sides of it, clamp it down so it can't move. The sides of these clips are very tiny, and so they do shear off pretty easily. So just something to keep in mind whenever you're doing this. You can buy more clips like this from the auto parts store if you do break them, like I did. All right, so that's that side. Go ahead and get this side taken care of. Okay. On this side over here, we're using the 17 mil socket. Okay. Get another 17 mil wrench. All right, so the nut on this side is a little bit tougher. So what I'm going to do is use a breaker bar to get it loose, and then we can drive it off. There we go. All right, taken care of. Washer. Okay, so the stud or the nut and bolt on the bottom of this strut right here is stuck in place because we need to actually get this to lower it down. So let's go ahead and lower, or let's go ahead and undo the ball joint from the upper control arm that attaches it to the spindle. This guy is an 18 mil. All right, so we're loosening this, obviously, it's coming apart. What we want to do is the same thing we did on the other side, which is put a jack under the actual rotor to keep it from popping out and breaking or potentially breaking lines. So I'm going to preemptively unattach that right there so we have a little bit more room to play with. But you really don't want to mess up this wire or your brake line right here. So let me get my jack. All right, so let's put some tension on this. And remember to keep it off of the dust shield. You just want it on the rotor itself. There we go. We got that. We have this supported now. So let's go ahead and keep taking this off. When it comes off, it's going to want to come towards you, so just keep a hand on it. You'll probably drop the nut off the bottom of this ball joint, but that's okay. Might surprise you too, so. And don't twist it off with your hand. You can get it caught somewhere. There you go. So actually, with it being supported from the bottom, it's wanting to fall forward, which is absolutely fine. So what we want to do now, staying in place like that, I have a black strap like I used on the other side that we are going to use to keep this upright. Go under one lug, over this brake line bracket, through the top over this upper control arm. We should be golden. Here's another look at it. We got one. This is just the extra. Have it supported by the plug stud under the brake line bracket and up here. So now we just have to maneuver this around until we're able to get this guy out of here. So just gotta figure out the best path forward. You may have to mess around with like loosening this to give it a little bit more play. You need to detach that ABS line and back here. There we go. So now I got the rest of that bolt out. Put it back where you found it. Put the nut back on the upper, or the ball joint on the upper control arm. There you go. Okay. Slide it out from under there. Whew. All right, so it's out of its place. Now we just have to maneuver it to be able to get it completely out. So I'm going above the brake line, getting that bottom off. Be cognizant of the ABS line. Watch the brake line again. And there you go. That's out. If you're having trouble with this, getting the actual assembly out, if you are having trouble getting that out, it's okay. You can loosen this bolt, or actually take this sway bar link, undo the sway bar link, and it'll give this a lot more motion up and down to move. I've done this before, so I know you don't have to do that, but if you're struggling, that could be an easy way to get you a little bit more room down here. But for me, it's just one less bolt to undo. Okay, this is great. We got our shocks, strut, assembly, whatever you would like to call them. We got them off the truck. I'm gonna label them both so I make sure that I keep these accurate to the sides they were installed on. So this was the driver. I'm just gonna put a D on everything. that says, there we go. All right. Everything that can possibly come off, I'm just writing a D on it, so I know which parts stay together and which parts don't. It's just for my own knowledge, and it could come in handy. At this point, I highly recommend taking pictures of everything. Go through, take pictures of the coilover, or I guess the strut assembly, but the coilover, I guess, for simple terms, we can call it a coilover. Take pictures of everything, exactly how it is, especially if this is your first time doing it. If this is a stock vehicle, you want to take notice of all the different parts, all the different pieces, the direction they're facing, all of that, because it is important whenever you go to install it back on your truck. So take a second, take a bunch of pictures, and then we'll get to the comparison and installing. So now we have these guys off. We have our, let's see, this is our driver's side and our passenger side. So put these right here, and I'll show you how our Bilsteins are going to go in. So we are essentially replacing the white part with these nice silver Bilstein shocks. And then we will, once we disassemble this, we'll go into how to set up the shock itself for the ride height that you want. I'm going back with stock because I already have a leveling kit installed on here, so I don't need that. But I'm looking for a better ride, so that's what we're doing here. But this is essentially what we're doing. We got to take these springs off of their mounts, remove these, and then put these back in their place. All right, so this brings us to the trickier part of this installation. You're gonna need a spring compressor. If you have not used a spring compressor before, it can be a little bit tricky. So once you get your struts off your truck, I recommend bringing it to an off-road shop. Whichever one is closest to you, they will have a spring compressor and can swap these shocks out for you fairly quickly, actually. Should be 30 minutes to an hour to swap them out with a spring compressor from a shop. But if you have used a spring compressor before on your own, then this is essentially the same principle. You're just compressing the spring until this loosens up, and then you can take the entire shock assembly out by loosening up the top nut up here. So I'm going to be using my own spring compressor that I purchased, but if you don't feel comfortable, take it to the closest shop near you and they can swap out these shocks for you. So let's get to it. I'm going to put these back over there and we're going to do one at a time. I'm using these spring compressors and I'm going to be using an impact driver to tighten these down. Go slow, don't rush this. I'm going to start on the driver's side, so I'll put the passenger over here. Okay guys, like I said, I'm going to be using these spring compressors and an impact. The reason I'm using a 1/2 inch impact is because there needs to be a lot of tension on this all thread right here. So let's go ahead and install them. You want them fairly even with each other. Like so. What's the difference between these? Oh, that's for that side. Yeah. I knew there had to be a reason. All right, so now that we have our spring compressor tool on here, the whole thing in a vise to keep it from moving side to side. Once we compress this spring down, this should move freely, and then we should be able to undo the top bolt over here. So I'm going to compress these springs evenly on both sides, slowly but surely, until the shock is actually moving within the spring. I'll show you what I mean, but let's go ahead and get to tightening this down. There we go. It is moving freely now. That's what you want to see. All right. So now let's get the top flange nut off. The top flange nut is a 18 millimeter. Okay. There we go. So we got that top nut off. Now we should be able to slide that whole thing forward, and we have our shock. There you go. All right, so here we go. What we have to do now with our old shock is take this cap off, and we are reusing this spring seat. Now the difference between the Rancho and the Bilstein is this spring seat clip right here. This is adjustable. This is what gives you the adjustable height. The very top is 2.5 inches. The very bottom is stock. I'm going to move this clip down to the bottom because I want it stock height because I already have a leveling kit on it. So from here, I'm going to move this, take this off, and we'll go step by step. Oh, that's not bad at all. Okay. All right, now I have mine on the lowest setting. And so what I can do from here is take this collar, slip that over it. It has a groove that it sits down onto. This is your spring seat adapter. So it sits right there. And now we need to take this cap off. So what I have usually found that works, and because I'm not reusing this shock ever, there you go. The reason you need to do that is because you need this piece right here. So there we go. That shock is out. And what we need to do from here, take our spring seat, put it right there, put our dust cap on, not that one, the supplied one, and then you tap it down from there. There you go. Now this is ready to reassemble. You put your bump stop in right here, and you put it back into the coil assembly. So let's go ahead and do that. So, like this, and upside down, put it into place. Go. Okay. You can already tell there's just the quality in Bilstein's shocks are just so much better. I'm so pumped to have this on my truck. All right, so now we need to put on the flange nut that is supplied with your Bilstein shock. It is a 15 millimeter, so I'm going to go ahead and get it started by hand. And then I'm going to drive it the rest of the way with this. There we go, all the way seated. So now we need to release tension from our spring compressors. There you go. There you go. Alrighty, guys. That's 2 shocks. Done. Now let's go reinstall these guys back into the truck. All right, y'all. So with a little bit of patience, you have your new shocks installed into your shock assembly that is going to replace your stock Ranchos. I'm pumped. I'm ready to get them in my truck. Let's go do it. One thing to note that I wanted to touch on is this top locking nut right here, the flange nut that they provide right here. You don't want to drive that down with a impact driver because it needs to be torqued to a specific foot-pound, which is 19 foot-pounds. So I use an impact to get it down, but I also then use a torque wrench to tighten that to 19 foot-pounds. So let me show you that. Now you need to do this before you release the tension of the spring, but I'm just showing you guys for good measure. So let's actually do it right here. So like I said, do this before you release the spring pressure. There you go. That is tight and torqued to spec. And now we can install this on the truck. All right. So let's go ahead and start the assembly process with the driver's side. So just as before, you're gonna have to kind of snake it in here to get it to go where it needs to. And I may end up having to take the sway bar links off to get this new shock in because it is slightly taller. We'll loosen this up just a little bit more. Not tying anything, no. There we go. All right. All right. So we got it back in its place. Let's go ahead and tighten this up a little bit so it can't slide out. Let's get the bottom bolts in and then we'll get the top bolts in. So here we have our bolt that we are reusing that was originally on the truck. What will help with this as well is using a jack to jack this bottom up so we can get that T-bar to align correctly with the lower control arm. May need to use a little bit of persuasion on the bottom to get it in place. I'll make those bolts. With this T-bar, I may need to get it to move just slightly towards me a little bit. There we go. Those flush. So once you have your bolts through there, you can put one of these supplied flange nuts from Bilstein on here. And then take another to go on the right side over here. And then torque them down. Okay, I've got a 15 that I'm going onto the bottom there with, and then I'm coming from above and tightening it down. Okay, these bolts right here do need to be tightened down to 53 foot-pounds. There we go, 53 foot-pounds. Now, we take the other, oh, we already have a lock nut on there. Let me bring you guys down here. Okay, so now we're going for that bolt right there. And now what I'm going to do is go from the bottom to tighten it up, and then I'll torque it to 53 foot-pounds. All right. There we go. Now I'm going to take this, put it up here, put it back on that nut, and tighten this down to 53 foot-pounds. There we go. Whew. Good deal. Okay, so now I need to go ahead and start tightening this back up so I can get it attached to the upper control arm. I think what I need to do actually is loosen this so we can get it back down. Okay, there we go. Now we're talking. All right, let's go ahead and get this back off. Whew, mosquitoes are coming out. I am losing daylight. We'll probably have to pick this up in the morning. So I'm going to use the jack to get the spindle back in place. All right. So I got that ball joint nut back on there, so I can take this off. Don't forget to reattach your lines where they came off. Right. All of that taken care of. Now let's tighten this guy back down. Now I'm going to go ahead and tighten this guy up. There we go. That is nice and tight now. Won't have any problems there. Okay, let's go ahead and tighten the top bolts. All right, so as you can see, we're going for these 3 studs right here. So grab your washers and nuts, make sure they go on. Washer, the nut. Try not to get in the way of the camera. On this one, washer, then the nut. This last one over here with a nut, washer, and the nut. There we go. These are 17 millimeter. There we go. Got that back how we wanted it. All right.
That's going to wrap it up here for our review and install of the Bilstein B8 5100 series height adjustable front shock fitting 2019 and newer Silverado and Sierra 1500s, excluding Trail Boss and AT4 models. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, for all things Silverado and Sierra, be sure to keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.